are.
Usually it's you who's having tech difficulties, and today it was me that my computer just did not want to cooperate. I love
Well,
when that happens.
I'm glad that you have extra devices around the office that you were able to join on because I have been there before on Mondays where I joined through iPads or cell phones or other devices that are not normally the device that we use for this.
And that kind of goes to what we're talking about today about your actually, I'm seeing that what it says that we're talking about today is not really what we're talking about today. Because what we're talking about today, I mean, what I'm seeing on our um, dashboard, so to speak, says what is your work style and how is it related to ROE? First of all, and that's really not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what is your definition of work, and so why the heck does that matter? Um, because it matters immensely to how we approach what we're doing, how we handle everything that comes up in our work, and how we run our business, how we lead our team. I could go on and on about that. But before we do that, let's say, hey, if anybody has actually stuck with us through the 7 minutes of, are they really going to come on? Where the heck are they? Let us know you're with us because we always love knowing that our people are with us, and it's good to interact with you during our conversation today. We had some really good stuff to talk about and some exciting news to share at the end. So if you're not with us live, be sure you continue listening to the live stream, or if you're checking us out on the podcast, listen to what our announcement is at the end because it's big stuff. We're excited. Um, and if you don't believe us, you should go to coffee at the corporate headquarters with us, and you would definitely be able to tell that, right, Jeff?
Yes, we've got some really exciting stuff to share here at the end of today's live stream. So looking forward to being able to share that message.
Absolutely. Not that the definition of work is not important and exciting, but it only gets better from there, right?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
a good teaser. You can tell you've got that marketing hat on today.
That hat just kind of, I wear it on it's a rare day when I take it off. Let's just phrase it that way.
That's true.
So it's how I think, it's how I function. Here we are. So your definition of work, that's not something I really thought about until I was having a conversation with my former assistant. And she was trying to wrap her head around the concept of return on energy and why doing your masterpiece work was so important. And it's not that she didn't buy into what I was saying, but there were so many places in her life that didn't align with that. Her husband, who was an engineer and actually worked in the field of energy production, like he worked for a power plant. Um, his perspective was that you expend energy and it's gone. And of course, with return on energy, no, it's not gone. When you are working in your zone of genius or your masterpiece work, as I like to call it, when you are doing work that energizes you, you gain energy. You may be exhausted when you're done, but you gain energy from what you're doing. And that was a concept that was just not something she'd been exposed to before. So, in the course of this whole conversation, what I realized was that your definition of work and how you've seen people define work and model working in your life makes a huge difference in what you believe you are capable of doing and what you give yourself permission to do. So we started digging into this with my assistant, and actually, I've got a video out there somewhere that is an interview that we did around the definition of work, what the word work means. And so I want to just have everybody pause for a second and think about, how do you define the word work? So Jeff, I'm just gonna, because you're here and you're my like guinea pig on this whole thing, because you're lucky. How do you define the word work? What does work, the word, mean to you?
I would probably say several years ago, if you would have asked me, it's doing the, 9 to 5, put in your 30 to 40 years, just work for the weekend and work for retirement when you don't have to quote unquote work. Um, that's evolved
Wow.
quite a bit. And I think you hear it, or I hear it at least when I talk to people that work not for themselves, but for others, that's kind of their mentality. Man, it's Monday again. I can't wait till work's over on Friday so that I can do X, Y, and Z, whatever that is. Um, and to me, I think of work as now things that I just don't enjoy doing. And sometimes, like we talked last week, there's some of those things you have to do. Like,
Right.
like I don't like doing my taxes, for example, but you have to do them.
Mm,
So I
right.
found a way kind of around that. I have someone that I pay to do my taxes. I just bring them everything. They do it. I sign. I pay whatever I owe for the year, and then I move on.
You pay
So
whatever you owe happily because you didn't have to do that job.
yes, absolutely. And I have no desire to do that job. So I think over the years for me, it's kind of evolved. Originally it was kind of like, man, I can't wait till the weekend because I can spend more time with my family, my friends. I can do these other things that I really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And even thinking about some of that, some of those things that I might not mind to do because it was something outside of my normal course of work, right? Like
Right.
landscaping. A lot of people pay to have that done. I like getting my hands dirty out in the yard. I don't do it full time as my profession, but I don't mind having, 3 cubic yards of mulch dumped in my driveway and taking a shovel, and it just gets me outdoors and everything.
Yeah.
So there are some days when some years, I should say, when that gets delivered and it's either freezing cold and raining or it's ridiculously hot and humid that I'm wondering why I'm even bothering doing this. But all in all, it gets me outside of my normal. I get to be outside. Like, I generally enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me over the years, it's kind of shifted. It's, doing the things that I want to do when I want to do them, and the things that I have to do that I don't really have a way to get out of it or outsource it or have someone else do it, that to me is work.
That's really interesting.
Or
So,
or I don't there's an opportunity to outsource it, but I don't see the value in outsourcing that for the cost. So I'd rather do it myself, I guess,
and
is another part of that.
okay. So what I'm hearing from what you're saying, and tell me if this is correct or not, is um, if it's work, it's drudgery. It's not enjoyable. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting point. And going back to my former assistant, what she'd seen modeled was exactly what you described. Hold on, I'm going to write something down. What she'd seen modeled by her family, and all of us have seen modeled in some way, shape, or form what work looks like by the people who raised us. What she'd seen modeled was both her mom and dad had jobs, and their jobs were jobs they did. They were very good at their jobs, but they weren't things that brought them joy. They weren't activities that brought them joy. They did what they did because it brought in money to support their family and put food on their table. And that is the definition of work that the majority of us grew up with. That's what we've seen. That's what we expect. That's why your definition of work for all those years when you were working in the corporate world and you got up and you drove to the office and you worked from 9 to 5, but realistically it was probably more like 7:30 till 6:30 or 7. I'm just being honest about what I know happens in the corporate world, and I know who you work for. And you do that for 30 to 40 years, and you work for the weekend and you work for retirement. That's the definition of work. And don't people usually call that the grind?
Yeah. Yep. I heard it referred to as the grind.
Mm-hmm. So we've grown up and we've been exposed to this concept of we work to put food on the table. It's not something that we do because we enjoy it. It's something we do it because we have to, because we like to eat and we want our family to be able to eat.
Yep.
So we do what we need to do. And so a lot of times, until we know where that comes from, is we've been exposed to that in our family of origin. We've been exposed to that in media. We've been exposed to that pretty much. And if we even think about what the education world is about, and I have two family members who are teachers. I mean, my daughter and my daughter-in-law are both teachers, so I'm not slamming education. This is a bigger picture than just what they do on a daily basis.
Yep.
But the education system is set up to move people through the system and into the employment world that we have. It's not set up for people to become entrepreneurs. It's set up for people to become employees of organizations. And we need people who are employees. I'm not saying don't do that.
Yeah.
But the definition of the word work is finding things that, I mean, in the societal framework, finding something you can do that puts food on your table. Fair?
It is very fair.
Okay. So our society tells us this. Our family tells us this. It's modeled for us in a lot of ways. But here's where we run into a problem. And I know that you're going to relate to this. So I have an acronym for the word work. The word work means you're going to be worn out, overwhelmed, resistant, and because I had to put the K further into the word, lukewarm. Fair?
That is fair. And
Yeah.
you see it. I mean, I think there's been studies been done about the American worker and how disengaged people are at their place of work. And I think, there's been a number of people that have been there where you get into a role that's a good paying job, decent benefits, it provides for your family, yada, 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 all the things that you just said. And all those things for your acronym, ring true, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, they do for many people. And then you end up with the golden handcuffs that you're stuck in that role because your lifestyle and the commitments that you've made have you require you to keep going to that job where you're worn out, overwhelmed, resistant, and lukewarm to what you're doing because you've made commitments and you need that cash. Yeah. So it's really interesting how you define the word work, because I define it very differently. And this means that there are some people who don't appreciate me very much because, I mean, we talked just last week about ROE and why return on energy means that you're doing work that feeds you and where you see not only how it's putting food on your table, but there's an emotional and mental and actually even spiritual reward for what you're doing in the work you're doing. Now, not all 40 hours that you're working, okay, or 50 or whatever it is, but you, the majority of the time, can see that what you're doing is energizing you and you are motivated to keep doing it, not just because you know you have to keep doing it to put food on the table, but because there is a satisfaction in it and you know you're making a difference and making an impact with what you're doing because it matters to you. Yep. It's important work from your perspective. So there's another way of thinking about this that is asking the question of, is your work a job? And just for the record, what you described was a job.
Yep.
There's three choices: a job, a career, or a calling. Now, we talk to business owners, even though this particular piece of messaging is for anybody, no matter whether they're working for themselves or working for somebody else. Knowing your definition of work and why you go to work and what work means to you is huge, even though I would say that 99.9% of people have never taken the time to stop and think about this, because they don't even know that they should stop and think about this. They have no idea that this
Nope.
is something that's important to understand. But if your job is a job, you go, you collect a paycheck, you go home. You don't think about work when you're not at work, except for the fact that like on Friday night, you're really like happy. And on Sunday night, well, let's just say you're not happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Monday morning, you're even more miserable. And I've been in a job that actually I felt was calling at one point in time, but because things ended up not going well in the long term, let's just phrase it that way, I know what it's like to have that pit in your stomach when you're driving to work and you pull into the parking lot and you think, you have your hand on the steering wheel and you have to go, okay, I have to steel myself to go in there and do this job for one more day. I'm just going to get through today. We're not going to worry about tomorrow. I'm going to get through today. Yep. Not a pleasant place to be. And it's not good for your body either. Your body responds to that in not a positive way. So a job or a career, and your career could be something where you're incredibly good at doing something, but it's not feeding your soul. And eventually you end up in the same boat as that person who's struggling to go to work every Monday morning. I mean, there are songs written about, working for the weekend and, I mean, I'm not going to sing it because the world does not need that, but nonetheless. But if you're working in something that is a calling, that's a totally different animal. And my contention is that making the biggest impact is doing work that's your calling. And we all have that. The question is, do we believe we can move into that place and do that and make a living?
And, there's one thing that at least for me, and you kind of mentioned it, that kind of hit on this a little bit, is I think there can be different times in your career where you believe that you're in your calling. Time passes and then you realize that it's kind of more of a career, right? That, okay, I've found this career industry niche, whatever, and I'm doing well in it. So this is more of a career. And then I think you can fall into that. It's a job and only a job. And I think some of that depends on, and this is really important, I think, for any small business owner, how you treat your staff. Because, I've been through that progression where, at one point in my career, I thought I found a calling, that it was kind of a career thing. I still enjoyed it. And then I got to the point where this is just a job, and this job is not worth the headache, stress, everything that's wreaking havoc on me. I think it's not just once you find it, you're there. I think there's a little bit of this. You can ebb and flow depending upon what's going on with the company, the organization, who you might work for. And I think that's really important for small but mighty business owners to know. I mean, you can make or break. You could have someone that is in that top, zone of genius working for you. And if you don't keep that culture and all that stuff and the support for that person going, they could easily become into this, it's just a job, and this, pit in the stomach, pulling into the parking spot and thinking, dear Lord, I've got to go in here and deal with another day of this nonsense. And I think then that also goes into some of the psychology behind why people don't leave employers that just
Yeah.
fall into that.
Yeah.
But I make decent money. I've heard people, I was talking to someone that's working in a corporation the other day, last week, and they said, I'm so invested with so many years here. I don't know that I would leave because I'm not sure the grass is any greener, but I dislike everything about what this company stands for, what they've, started to stand for, my boss, but I just don't see a good path for me to leave because of all of these reasons. So I think this whole understanding what your definition of work is and how it impacts how you feel about what you're doing is such a timely discussion.
And that information for people, because what we're talking about in a lot of this is, number one, people grow.
Yeah.
And what they need at one stage of their life might be different than what they need at another stage of their life. What their values are, that's not really true. Their values most likely are going to stay pretty steady, but how those values are lived out, and it could be like for the person that you were talking about that's in the corporate space, it could be that what didn't bother them from a values perspective 10 years ago now does bother them because they've been exposed to something bigger, that they see some of the implications of what the company does that they didn't understand. And then there's other parts of it that we grow in our understanding of who we are over our lifetime, generally speaking. Some people don't, but most of us grow in our understanding. And that's one of the things that as a business owner is really important, that you know that you understand yourself, and that you provide, your staff are people who are in your employ, but you have to care about them enough to want to make sure they have a place where they can grow too. And what are the runways for people? So, and if you're building a company that you want to grow it, and you want to have a place where the people come and they stay because they know they have the opportunity to grow with the company, and you want your good people to continue and to grow into even bigger roles in the company, I mean, the implications of this understanding your definition of work and having your people understand their definition of work and where it comes from.
Yes.
And then what we haven't gotten to yet, and this is the critical thing for me, this was the big aha for me as I had this conversation with my assistant. Because of who I am and the growth that I've had in my life, I know that doing work that matters for me, that is a calling, that makes an impact on the world, is super important. And I believe that people who start businesses have that same feeling. They want to make an impact, or they wouldn't start their own business. They're not doing this just for the fun of it, because there's a whole lot that you do as a business owner that you're not doing because it's fun.
Yep.
So what if we flip the definition of the word work from drudgery that you have to get done in order to get to the fun stuff, but instead of it being the stuff I have to do to get to the fun stuff, what if what I'm doing is the fun stuff? What if I'm doing work? And I know, Jeff, that you are now in this space where the work you get to do when you're working with clients is the fun stuff for you. Of course, the fun stuff for you, yeah, that's drudgery for me. And the fun stuff for me is not the definition of fun stuff for you.
And I think that's so critical is, as a business owner, understanding what your definition of work is and understanding your team's definition of work, because that's where the secret sauce, I think, starts to gel, where you can give people the opportunities to align to their personal views of what work is in your business to propel it forward versus projecting what you believe work should look like onto the entire team and making them fit in a particular box of a definition of how and when work is to get done.
This is a recipe for disaster, because if you have a whole bunch of mini-me's in your company, then there are going to be a whole lot of things that don't get done. You may have a really fun time with these people when you go to the axe throwing place, or I don't know, whatever it is that you're going to do for fun. But and just for the record, you can have a whole lot of fun with people who are different than you in a recreational setting. I do it on a regular basis. But in order to really have a well-functioning team, you need to round out your team. You don't round out the individual, you round out the team. So you find those people that have skills that are opposite of yours so that you can work together and honor what everybody brings to the table.
Yeah.
So, and as the business owner, that is your role in the process, to make sure that we have the right people sitting around the table and doing all the different tasks that need to be done so that you can together bring this company to the next level. So I've got a new acronym for the word work that is what will really relate to ROE, return on energy. Doing work that is worthwhile. And just for the record, that's worthwhile in your definition. Because what I believe is worthwhile is not necessarily worthwhile to the person down the street.
Yeah.
That doesn't make either of us wrong. It just means we both have a definition of the work that is worthwhile for each of us. You're doing work that's outstanding. It's not average, it's outstanding. It's rewarding to you. Oh, that might have to do with ROE. And it is kinetic. It's energizing for you, and those around you are impacted by it. They sense that energy in you and they're drawn to it. Imagine having a team of people that are like that. Wouldn't that be amazing?
That is absolutely amazing.
Because this is what I do. I paint the picture of what could be. Yeah, that's what I do. So, wow, we've said a lot. We've got 5 more minutes. What do you say?
I say
yes.
We should share with everyone our exciting news.
Our big drum roll. Too bad we don't have a drum roll sound. That would have been so perfect, don't you think?
I know, we didn't really plan that super well, and I'm not sure that we would be able to figure out how to get it to come through the speakers either.
And then there's that. Maybe we have to, that is something that we need to have a team member who figures these things out for us, right?
Yeah, actually, let's see if I can.
Are you seriously going to go look something up on this? That's hilarious.
Could you hear
it really coming through? I can hear something, but it sounds like an ultrasound, not a drum roll. Maybe it's an underwater drum roll.
Yeah, maybe. I just it was the first thing on YouTube that came up that just said it had sound only. So
okay.
We need some technical help with that to get it to play through the platform.
Yeah, apparently we do. Well, lesson learned from that standpoint. So our big announcement is that we are opening the Inflection Point Hub. It is going to be our first go round with this peer advisory community. On February 28th, we're going to have our first meeting of the first cohort, which is limited to up to 8 people. We already have one, potentially two people who are in. So that means there are 6, potentially 7 spots still left. But you guys have seen what we do. I mean, if you don't know what Jeff and I are about at this point in the game, you need to go back and continue either listening to or watching the live streams, because you see who we are. You know what we're about. You know the value we bring. You know the fact that we like to have fun while we're doing it.
Oh, yeah.
And if you are a small but mighty business owner who's ready to grow both your business and yourself, we'd love to talk to you about it. So, and I love the fact that Jeff is just nodding his head, because that doesn't happen that often.
Yeah, because Rhonda, I mean, you're nailing everything that we've been talking about, and even we joke coffee at our headquarters, which is
That's
a
right.
local restaurant where we meet in person to kind of sketch all of this out. And we've been working on this for some time, and it's super exciting that we are this, close to launching.
Absolutely. I am just so excited about it. So if you want to know more information, go to inflectionpointhub.com, and there's more information about it. It tells you what to expect. It tells you what to do next, which is to apply for membership, because we want to make sure that everybody who's coming into this group will gel together. But if you join this group, you will be part of the founding group for this organization. And we are really excited to bring in our first cohort that will help us launch this whole thing and take the vision we have for creating a community around this, around the inflection point moments / inflection point hub, and grow it into a group of people who want to grow together in this. Business owners who want to be in a community with other business owners and have the support, have the knowledge base within the community. We're also going to bring in people from outside the community to speak to us. You've seen a couple of them, because you've seen Aaron Longmoon and Maritza. Oh my gosh, I'm totally drawing a blank on Maritza Nelson. We've got more people that are in our back pocket that we're going to be bringing from that standpoint. It is going to be epic. And we have some early bird bonuses that if you go to the website, you'll learn more about them. Our super early birds are like off the chain. What they are has so much incredible value. So, Jeff, any words from you?
Go check out the inflectionpointhub.com for more details. And like you said, the early bird bonuses that we've put on this for our founding members is significant value for signing up early to be a member of this. And 2 of those are some workshops provided by yours truly, Jeff and Rhonda, each independent of kind of our areas of expertise, and some coaching incentives for some one-on-one coaching and feedback time with us about things that are going on in your business, either from a personal coaching perspective that Rhonda handles, or more process operational challenges that you're facing, which is what my practice is outside of the hub and what Rhonda's practice is outside of the hub.
Yeah.
So it's a really great opportunity. We're looking forward to filling up this first cohort with great small but mighty business owners that are looking to grow both personally and their business. So come join us, and more to come on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Jeff, this week we talked about the definition of work, and we're going to continue along this line next week. And of course, we want people to go check out the hub. It's been great being with you. Finally, once I finally got my computer to cooperate, and next week, hopefully we'll be on exactly when we're supposed to be, as opposed to whenever we get
Yes. Fashionably late.
there. Is that what we were?
That's what I'm going with. I'm rolling
Okay,
with
works for me. All right, Jeff, have a great week. We will talk to you next Monday. All right?
you too. See ya.
Thanks.